Rooted in resilience, inspired by nature, powered by movement. The podcasts where healing meets empowerment. Let's rise and thrive together. And now, here are your hosts, Scott and Melissa.
All right. Rise and Thrive podcast. Here we are. So, Melissa, Scott, and we have the wonderful opportunity today to welcome Dani, a dear colleague and friend and being in this world, light in this world. And so we're going to start, though, with a little mindful moment, and Scott's going to lead that, and then I will introduce our guest a little further.
Right. We are flying into this today. We are running behind. And so this is really important for us to have this mindful moment. So let's settle in, find your posture. If you're driving, don't close your eyes. Don't plant your feet. You know the drill. No operating heavy equipment or backhoes or things like that while doing mindfulness. And just take a nice deep inhale, cleansing breath. Hold it at the top and let that go. 2 more times, same thing. Deep inhale all the way to the bottom of the lungs. Release that into the environment. 1 more time. Let it go. Drop those shoulders. Relax your cheekbones, the eyes. Just find your natural rhythm for a moment. Yours, no one else's. Follow the patterns of the breath. Recognize your gratitude around the breath that does what it does for you constantly with no kind of effort on your part. Be that now. Effortless. I'll watch the clock. Take another nice long inhale to close. And with gratitude, exhale that out to the world and then find your place of calm. When you're ready, you can wiggle your fingers and toes, open up the eyes, and recognize what's changed in your environment. What's different? The colors, light, and we can begin our podcast now. I'll turn it over to Melissa.
I appreciate that because I needed that. Busy morning. So we want to welcome Dani today. It's been long in coming as we've tried to get our schedules to coordinate, hence the busyness. But that's what we're really addressing today. I'm going to share just a tidbit. Dani and I think we've met probably in past lives. We have a dear mutual being that kept saying for years, you should meet. And we just finally, handful of years ago now, believe it or not, we did meet, and just in awe of her and her life and what she's created, and very appreciative of her in this world. She is a trauma-informed entrepreneur and has a beautiful blended family, 4 children, correct? Yes. Navigating all of that and navigating the life, right? All the various patterns and habits and behaviors and thoughts. And now she's here to share her story and to share support out there to the world, because that's what we got to do. We got to focus on what we can control and focus on the inside, being a healthy frequency out there. So I'd like to open it up for you just to see where it goes, and we'll support.
Thank you, Melissa. I felt like I was totally feeling this like warm hug across the ether space here. So I appreciate that. What a introduction. And well, oh man, like where to start? Start anywhere.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like if I'm going to be sharing my story, I like to kind of think of like themes, like 50,000 foot view themes. And then the story kind of unfolds over the course of years through that. But I also recognize we only have not years to talk about it. So summaries, like I'll give a little insight into some background, I think might be a nice place to start. So I
always leave them wanting more.
More.
That's right.
Okay, yeah, let's see if I can just like breadcrumbing. I sense some out there, right? Well, my background. So I am a family nurse practitioner. I am an entrepreneur, and I knew I wanted to be a nurse when I was 12 years old. I come from a family of healthcare professionals and educators, and so at 12, I'm like in scrubs in the ER. Let kids do today.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate and would do swing shift on 4th of July holidays, seeing all sorts of crazy firework accidents. And I thought, man, this like nursing thing's pretty cool. And so I was somebody that knew what I wanted to do from the get-go. And I was always drawn into like health and healing. And I started out going into ICU. And as I was going through my education in like my bachelor's program in nursing, there would be these occasional times or situations where we'd have conversation about, oh, you might encounter blank, this type of patient, this type of behavior, or what have you. And I remember it was actually in nursing school where I started to hear things and see things. And it was a weird time in my life too, because it was like the traumas were bubbling up from like my first 20 years of life, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Like, what's going on? I didn't ask to be seeing all these things, but it was good. It was important. And I actually, as a child, I experienced sexual abuse from a youth pastor and who was also a volleyball coach, who was also my teacher. So this person had like multiple roles in my life. And then it was nursing school talking. I think we probably had a talk about like PTSD or something. And I remember like all of a sudden having this full body, like when they're describing like, oh, you might have flashbacks, nightmares, whatever the case was. I started seeing myself in some of these descriptions and was like, do you guys curse on this show? I mean, I don't know.
Hell yeah.
I should have asked ahead of time.
No, you're good. You're good.
What the fuck is happening? Like, I felt like my body was like, had a mind of its own. And it was so overwhelming. And no coincidence that at that point in my life, I actually had somebody reach out to me and had asked me like, hey, they called me. I was leaving my library work study job. And they said, hey, Dani, I'm just going to cut straight to the point because this was her style. She was so awesome. And she straight up asked me if something bad had happened with me and this teacher. And that was like a secret I was taking to the grave. Nobody was ever going to hear that story, right? It was like my deepest source of like shame and humiliation and fear and all of that. And I remember just like bursting into tears and then purging like years of this stuff just started flooding out of me. And that was the start of my healing journey. It was like cold water doused over, blindfold stripped off. It was crazy. It was very overwhelming. And so from that point and moving forward, it was always just very clear to me that, and I might not have had the words to it, but through my own healing, it was so important for me to find meaning in my own suffering because, as many of us know, and in the world of trauma, like it's like an onion. And as you peel back these layers, you get deeper and deeper and deeper until you're like, oh my gosh, it's not just about those events with that particular person. You recognize like there's a plethora of other things that had been going on as well that I didn't even know that they weren't normal things. Like it took me a long time to realize like that was trauma and that was neglect and that was not right. And that was physical abuse and on and on. And so anyways, I think that as I was like navigating my career and like finding this, like, I guess like going into a role as an ICU nurse and like feeling like, man, I'm getting a feel for something in this room or with my coworker and I can't put my finger on it. So much of the time I feel like, man, am I nuts? Like, I feel like there's something going on. And then I would start to figure out like, oh my gosh, like this person, they're carrying a burden, right? And like, so over time, I was able to see that my experiences, while they were very painful, they sort of manifested into a superpower. And it's like having a very finely attuned antenna to like other people's suffering or things that are very like subconscious. I'm going to pause right there because like, what Scott said, right? Like leave people wanting more. I mean, I could keep going, but I guess it depends on like, what direction should we go, right? That's like a 50,000 foot summary, I suppose, at this point.
And that concludes our podcast with Dani. We're going to leave you all hanging.
Well, what came to mind for me is when you said, like, when it all started to surface, it's like our awareness gets to where we realize those patterns, those nervous system ways of viewing the world start to come up because our awareness deepens. And you're like, wait a minute, I have power to change this, or I can sense it in others. And that underlying nervous system wiring,
Yeah.
so that default mode network,
Yeah.
that you start to realize, wow. And I think that's where you were in the mix of all of that and you were able to take the next step.
I think that's like such an empowering place to be, like being a survivor, right? Having been victimized, being a survivor, which we all are, this like surviving life, right? Like
Right.
we all, every single one of us has what to, your hardest day is literally your hardest day, right? We like, there's that maybe knee jerk or like the habit that we kind of do, like humans, we do comparisons, we find patterns, we do comparisons. And so I think that's another thing is like working with patients and hearing a lot of minimization of experiences.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, if you're minimizing the experience, then you're blunting your ability to see those the patternings that you're talking about, Melissa, right? And it's like, no, like it's okay that it's so interesting. It's just like the stories that we tell ourselves and like kind of shying away from something that I don't know. I don't know what it is. Part of it maybe is self-protective. Like it's really
Completely.
awful to have been through that. Like that sucks. And to
Right.
do that it's horrifying. It's like,
Well,
you know,
until you began to hear it and have it verbalized to you that was abuse, that was, did your brain be able to say, wait a minute, like have a frame of reference? Because before you didn't know that was not normal or, whatever. Right. And what I love is that you then turned it around, right? That suffering, and brought it into the clinical office to be able to help others that want to minimize it or just hide it,
yeah,
right? Because you felt it. And that, I think, like you said, it becomes a superpower to be able to hold space for people to let it come out and realize they're not less than to let it come out. They're actually going to create space and actually step into their healing.
absolutely. And like with that nervous system wiring, like some of the things that I've been thinking about, like, right. Okay. So like, I'm going to give you an example, right? So do you guys know what HRV is? Heart rate variability, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so like it's a thing. People are kind of hearing about it. And
We're
I'm
on it.
measuring my HRV and I'm like, what the actual fuck? Like it's 15, it's 12. Why is it so terrible? And so I'm trending it and it's like teens, right? And it should be like above 100, 150, that would be great. That's like a very balanced nervous system, right? And so I'm like, what in the world? And then I go and I have like a pretty traumatic, horrible experience with a sick family member a few months ago. And I'm there and I'm in this for 2 weeks. My HRV went into the 40s. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, stressful. This is traumatic. And so I'm like processing this. Like I get home, it plummets. And I'm like, my gosh. So after, and I've been in counseling since actually that phone call with like, hey, did this happen to you? And like the acknowledgement and the purging and going through court and putting that person in prison for that sexual abuse. I got into counseling right away. I'm so grateful and thankful. And I've been in it and I will be in it until the day I die. Like it's a non-negotiable for me. And so anyway, so I'm unpacking this with my counselor and I'm like, this is crazy. Like this was a super stressful couple of weeks and you would think my nervous system was on vacation. And she's like, oh, now isn't that interesting, Dani? Because your nervous system is wired to be a survivor in war. It is wired for hypervigilance. Normal life is what feels abnormal to your nervous system. So when you're put into a position of chaos, trauma, like high stress, your body's like, boom, we know this, and it's like there's flow in that. And I was a machine. I was like getting it done, like supporting everybody, caretaking everyone, delegating, like,
Yeah.
just helping the inferno, right? Breaking down the fires that were going on. And then I get home and it's like, now I got to bring my kids to school and I got to figure out what to do for dinner. And my anxiety is like so high. And she's like, yeah, you're wired to be a warrior. and you're living in a garden. And so like you are having to teach your nervous system that's wired from the womb be a warrior and hyper vigilant and scanning for threat and addressing trauma and chaos and survival, to be like, yeah, that's what feels like home to my nervous system. It feels normal. It feels like home, but it's not normal, right? We know this. And so yeah, the work that I think I'm finding that I'm doing, because what am I? I think I'm 41. I'm 41. No, I'm 40. I just turned 41. All of this education and the stuff, I'm really leaning into patterning, nervous system wiring, cell danger response, like you said, default mode network, like how the salience network is involved. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this explains so much about why normal life feels so hard for me, like anxiety and ADHD and all these things. And it makes sense. And so it's really helped a lot actually with self-compassion, right? Because I'd be like, for the love of God, why am I stressing out about this? Like, what is wrong with me that I can't just like appreciate the like monotony and the calm and the patterning of my day-to-day life? And it's like, oh yeah, because I'm a soldier that returned from battle, and integrating into society is hard.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, it just
pause right there too, but
you got it right there. Well, it just made like it connected for probably a lot of our listeners that we've heard people that return to abuse situations again and again. I mean, that just defines it right there, because there's a sense of comfort and safety, even though on the outside we know that's not. And so what I want to inspire is like looking at you right now and us right now is we're all have the capacity and ability to rewire, not because something's broken or because we're bad for having that warrior wiring. You needed that to survive. But now you're in a state where you'll be like, okay, I can observe this, notice this, and now I have the capacity to support my mind and body to
and adapt to it, right? Yeah. Like that's the badassery of being a warrior, right? Like you can be able to scan for threat and then be able to say, oh, there is no threat here. Like, you know what I mean? Like that is elite. That's elite warrior status. And so it's cool. So you're leveraging it as a superpower, but then knowing like my brain, my nervous system, the body always wants to heal. You give it the tools, you have the consistency and patience and the loving kindness towards yourself, right? And it'll figure it out. But it's certainly like, for all you listeners out there, it doesn't magically happen overnight, right? Like,
right.
Like, I don't want to pretend that I'm selling some sort of like snake oil that's got magic pixie dust. Like, it is work, but it's worthy, because like we're worthy, right? Like we're worthy of that work. Like we're worth that process.
Yeah.
It's okay that it takes us time.
Well, I often whisper in people, says, trust the process. Just keep showing up.
I often whisper that to her too when she's not trusting.
Trust the process, Melissa.
Yeah. She doesn't like her own words being used with her.
Right.
Dani, I have a couple of comments.
Yeah. I saw you scribbling away over there.
I'm a note taker. You've given so much rich content. We're always talking about feelings buried alive never die. Mm-hmm. And they come out. And they're stored in your body, in every cell of your body, in your 50 trillion cells. And I'm going to go in a lot of different directions. So you can answer these ad hoc, or you can not answer any of them. But I'm wondering about that compartmentalizing that occurs during and after trauma. Mm-hmm. It's always very curious to me how we're capable of walling off things.
Yeah.
And every human being, as part of our human experience, we wall off things. We also have this resistance to and this leaning in piece where we're resistant to certain things and we lean into other things. And understanding, your story is beautiful, how you leaned into your trauma and turned it into not resisting it any longer. Mm-hmm. You could have resisted it and it could have turned into something else.
Yeah.
Alcoholism, sexual addiction, busyness, escapism.
Disease in the body.
Drug addiction, all these things that we do to cope when we don't know how to manage our compartmentalization.
Yeah.
And then we toss around this word normal too much, in my opinion, because we don't know what normal is. We only know what abnormal is, if that makes sense. Because my normal maybe not be yours or yours or yours, but I don't have anything wrong with me. It's normal. Mm-hmm. And I find this conversation between normal and abnormal very interesting. And then the coup de grace of this conversation is, for me, is where does the spiritual component come into this?
Ooh, I
Where
love
does the
that you brought that.
where's the mindful awareness? How is that helping? How has that helped you decompartmentalize, learn where to resist, learn where to lean in as part of the body understanding and the mind understanding?
Such a good question. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Let's do a high five. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a note taker.
Okay. Well, full transparency. So you talked about like coping, you talked about numbing, right? Like you were
Yeah,
talking about
right.
alcoholism, sexual addiction, and full transparency, like my early 20s and even my teens. I would say that as this like these experiences were kind of like I was coming to the realization, I was decompartmentalizing, right? I was opening these doors, and we can talk about that a little bit more in a second. I was I was something to behold. I cheated on my first husband. I could not stand to be alone. It was like somebody was lighting me on fire. Like this fear and this discomfort with being in quiet. I couldn't like now I love quiet. Now I'm driving in my car and I on purpose don't listen to music so I can like kind of calm down and listen to my own thoughts and like inner knowing.
Or our podcast, just
Right.
saying.
Or your podcast, totally. But my inner world was so self-destructive that to have any sort of quiet space to hear that inner dialogue was torture because I hated myself. I was so guilty and ashamed, the self-loathing. I was suicidal. I mean, it was very messy. It was very ugly. And so like the numbing that happens, and that's the other thing, because people have a lot of shame around that. Like I'm not my current husband, Joel. I mean, he knows my whole story too, but we'll get in tiffs or arguments, and sometimes I'll be like, I'm really sorry I hurt you, and sometimes when we're talking about this I'm like, the biggest mistake I ever made, the thing that I'm most sad about is that I cheated on my first husband, because and I can hold space for both things. I see the person I was, like that wounded wild feral animal that was just trying to survive, and also I see who my capital S self is. And so that's kind of like bridging into some of the spirituality stuff. I think especially I think abuse as a whole, there is an attack on that spirit. Like it's spiritual abuse, and particularly when you're having abuse from people in positions of authority over some aspect of spirituality. In some ways, that was actually the most damaging thing to me,
Yeah.
because
Imagine.
that person positioned himself between me and my capital S self, and between my capital S self and God. And so, and that was weaponized. And then it destroyed all like trust for myself, trust for something larger. And so today, like over the last 20 years, and really with trauma work, I had to relearn like that. What is that quiet knowing? Where does my capital S self begin, and where is, for me, God, the universe, however you want to call it, nature, name it, whatever you want, but where is that at? Like, how do I interface with that? How do I trust that? How do I trust myself? And then how do I also hold space for all of the parts of me, including like those wounded parts? And that's been the biggest work. And I think, when you're talking about the compartmentalization, I remember because I'm on my third marriage, right? I'm on it. Like, hopefully it's the one in like number 3, like third time's a charm. Like, sorry, hubby, sweet Joel. Okay, so we've been together like, I don't know, 10 or
That
11
was good.
years. So like,
That's a great catch.
on this one to the bitter end, right? He's a very good man. But even the relationships that I forged from that place of early healing, like we talked about nervous system, I recognized something that was familiar in home. And what that was narcissism. And so that relationship was very unhealthy. I'm a recovering codependent, right? If you want labels, but I mean, they kind of help give some containers,
Mhm.
so it's okay. It's okay. It's not the only thing I am, right? But the compartmentalization, I think some of that is like pure survival. Like, how could I possibly go to work and also at the same time have up in the upfront forward facing all my parts that are feeling shame, my exiled parts, right? And then I think also, like in that situation, I was with my kids' dad. I was with him for 6 years, and come to find out, he was using drugs the whole time, and I had no clue. And it took God, not joking, like showing me visually, here's my baby crawling towards me in a room, and I see a used syringe sticking out of a sweatpant pocket, and my baby's about to step on a used syringe. And it was like, click, and then all of a sudden it was like this blindfold was ripped off of me, and a million memories bombarded my brain in that exact same moment. And I was like, oh my God, my husband's a drug addict. And it was like a million things. And for, whatever reason, I think part of it is like, that's horrifying. He was, I loved him. He was my husband, the father of my children. And so much of this stuff, like those behaviors and abuse, it's very insidious. There are situations where someone's yanked out of an alley and raped, that where it's just start and stop. But so much of it has to do with grooming, and it's subtle, and it's over the course of years, because it's more obvious if someone walks up and just punches you right in the face or rapes you. But when you're being groomed through over time, there's that trust that's building. And then if you're coming from a family that has generational trauma, so many of those behaviors that are unhealthy actually feel like home.
Yeah, that's what the normal is,
Yeah,
right?
I was going to say
Normal for your word, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally, in quotes. I don't know.
Yes.
Does that kind of like answer your
Yeah.
question a little bit?
I mean, it's an impossible question to answer wholly.
Totally.
It is we pride ourselves with Vital Edge Wellness Coaching on helping people raise their awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And by getting quiet to do so and changing environments to experience something different. That's why we do the retreats and through our coaching practices and through our functional movement and our yoga. So there's so many ways to raise your awareness. Having guests on like this to tell your story. And we want people to understand that, and you said it, the capital S self. We are not this body and who we show ourselves on this planet to be. We're much bigger than that. And when we get in touch with that, healing happens a lot faster. I'm a true believer in that, and I'll stick to that till the day I die. I know there'll be arguments, and some of our listeners won't agree, but I've lived it myself. I've helped others live it, and it fires me up. I want to know how to be more in touch with the capital S self, to drop the labels that keep us shackled.
Totally.
Because you said it earlier, you are not this thing, you're a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about myself especially right now, because I can relate to a lot of your story, and I am this, right? I am a coach. Well, I'm a much more than a coach, right?
Yeah.
I am an entrepreneur. Well, I'm much more than that. I don't want to be just that. And I don't expect everybody to get all the other parts of me, but I want to be as robust and as diverse as possible while connecting with my spirit self to show up in the physical self the best I can be. And you're explaining that journey eloquently of your own, on how you've managed that and led to this point. And I think it's amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And thanks for sharing that too, Scott, right? Like,
Yeah.
it can be such a lonely journey, especially if you're early days, man, especially if you're at the beginning and you're like, that guilt and shame is suffocating, and so it can feel like you're the worst person in the world, you're unworthy, and you feel like, well, nobody, I'm the only one, I'm the worst person. We have all of this judgment for ourselves because there are behaviors that we do where it's like, why did I go back to the person that hit me? You had mentioned, I think, Melissa, it's like people going back, and there's shame in that. There's serious shame in that, but makes perfect fucking sense to me. That person, I'm pretty sure you recognize from something in your childhood. And so, and it's confusing. And even people who commit awful crimes or atrocities and hurts and pain and all those things, that's the thing that's so complicated. It's like humans are not all bad. They're not all good. They're not all bad. And learning how to hold space for that was been very hard, because when you're hurt, right? It's like, I want justice. This was unfair. This was terrible. But then I'm kind of like on this journey of like working through my clench that I have on justice as a core value. And I have to loosen it, because if I'm holding on to that at the expense of all else, I lose peace.
That's
And then
right.
I'm only ever angry, and I
Yeah.
have righteous rage, right? But that kills me on the inside. So having to be able to hold space for two opposing things. It's not black and white. It's very gray. And that person that all the abuse that I've experienced, being able to look back generationally and be like, oh my God, I see where my family came from, and seeing that evolution. I can have, it's not right what happened. And I can have compassion and be like, that makes sense. I can see how that happened. It's not right. I didn't deserve it. There's no excuse for it, but I understand it, and I can have compassion. That's a really hard place to get to, especially early,
I think you are like reading my mind, because I'm listening to you and I'm thinking justice has a hard time living in the same container with peace.
For sure.
And I have had that same experience where I've had to choose between justice and my
Yes.
own peace.
Yes.
I'm wondering how you manage that when you have outside influences forcing their opinions on you to say you need to fight and you need to. And how did you listen to that inner self in the midst of all those influences?
Well, to be honest, I contend to be such a righteousness, justice person. I don't really need outside people pushing me along. I am very like, it is.
Self-propelled?
Yes. And so really the battle was with my parts, was with myself. But I could put myself in a position where I'm hearing that externally. Everything for me was internally driven. And what helped me, so this is an example, like we had conflict with our former partners, right? Our former partners, we have to co-parent with them. We had conflict, and knowing that healings occurred, and knowing the type of person that I was with when I was still had a lot of work to do. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to diagnose anybody, but let's just, for the sake of like a container, we can say some of these people have very high traits of narcissism. Not saying they're narcissists. We all have narcissistic traits, but let's just say, for the sake of understanding the situation, they're higher. And knowing I have traits of codependency that are higher, I had to learn a lot of boundaries, and there was a lot of conflict. There's a lot of like weaponization of things. And so for me, I was like, this isn't fair. I'm being reported to DHS for lies. I'm being reported to the State Board of Nursing for lies. And it's all manipulative tools to try to have somebody be in a position of power over me. And so in those situations, I was enraged. I was like, where's the justice? And so it was a battle. This particular situation is like a court battle. And after 3 years, what helped me figure that out was taking a step. Number one, I was exhausted. It was rocket launching me into my burnout path. And I had to say 50,000 foot view. I constantly come back to that. I come back to that generationally. I come back to that in my own life. And in this situation, I was like, I need to look and see what my kids look like, because here I am thinking that I'm protecting them by pushing through this whole court stuff, and being very rigid and not compromising, because I'd be giving in to injustice and lies, right? And I realized they were fucking miserable. It was so stressful. They were like, mom and dad are always fighting, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, the thing that I thought I was doing to protect my kids is making them miserable. They have stomach aches. And so I had to pull away from like, what's right and wrong, like all those things. What do I deserve? It was like, what do I actually fucking want? I want my kids to be happy, feel loved, not feel like they're on eggshells. What can I do to get that? What can I do to get that outcome? And then a lot of that was surrendering. And like, where are my bare minimum boundaries? Because I can't sacrifice myself, right? But there definitely is something in here that I can be compromising, and I'm just not doing it because I'm fucking pissed because you're lying. You know what I mean? Like, And I'm like, okay, no, I got to move away from that. And I have to think about what is the thing that I want more of. And for them, it was peace for my kids. And so once I did that and I could see that unfolding, then I got to start doing the work of grief, because I had to freaking compromise with people that were like, had taken advantage. Right. And so it was like this grieving process. I don't have a simple answer for you, Scott.
Yeah, there is no such thing.
Well, that's it. I just listening to you, of course, I can relate, and it's amazing how, that power as moms, your children, that shift of focus. I mean, that's exactly what creates action. Like to be able to take you outside yourself a little bit and say, okay, oh my gosh, here's that. And I look back at what you've experienced. It's like you're breaking that ancestral pattern.
Yep.
And to have you stop and pause and look at the reflection through your kiddos, I mean, that's huge. And then that got you that next step.
I want to share, like, I know we're like probably getting close to the end of time, but I don't know if you've ever talked about this with your people, your listeners. And I mean this as a tool to help with self-compassion. And speaking of breaking generational patterns, okay, the ACE screener, the adverse childhood event screener. I don't know if you guys have ever mentioned this, but
I have not.
Listeners, you can Google it. Okay. You can do a fillable PDF, and it basically just captures numerically a value of like, what's your exposure been in childhood to trauma? And for me, when I did that, it's a score of 0 to 10. I scored a 9 out of 10, and I was blown away. I was like, my God, this is crazy. Like I did not. And so that there's some unpacking. But then what I did is this last summer, I had my kids take it and I could cry, but they scored a 2 out of 10. And my husband turned and looked at me, and I was seriously, I could just cry just thinking about it. And he's like, good job, mama. That's breaking generational trauma.
That's amazing.
Right? Like, fuck, this shit ends with me, man. Like, and that is hard, and it takes compromise and being clear on boundaries. It's tricky, man.
Well, it takes being a warrior.
It takes being a warrior, Scott. That's right. And that faith and that being able to discern, that discernment for capital S self, and like knowing there's something larger there that I can lean on and plug into and be like, I need some guidance, right? God and I talk, I curse like a sailor, and I'm never alone. I've spent so much of my life feeling alone and unworthy, and it's not true for anybody. So anyway.
So Dani, if you could talk to people that are just beginning this journey.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what their age is, you can begin now wherever you are. What are the top 3 things you'd ask them to do immediately?
Okay, top 3 things. Number 1, the very first thing that came to my mind, absolutely find a psychologist or a trauma-informed counselor. Second thing, give them like 5 dates. I tell all my patients, finding the right counselor is like dating. You're never going to find the right one on the first try, right? Or you might, but people have so much apprehension to doing trauma work because it's hard, right? And it can be scary and overwhelming. But don't wait, man. Like life is too short, and there's too much freedom and growth and love on the other side of that. So I would say find a counselor or psychologist, give them a chance. And then the third one, again, is if they're not a good fit for you, keep looking. Like, keep looking. There are people out there who will be a perfect fit for you. You are worthy of that. And it's okay. It's okay to be scared. Like, you can't be courageous and not scared. Courageousness comes from pushing through despite fear and pain, right? So, yeah, I don't know. It's having those support tools and having met people who do those different, and there's lots of different modalities, but I really strongly believe that working with a good psychologist for me is a non-negotiable. And then I fill in the rest: shamans, energy work, yoga work, Melissa, good nutrition, right? Coaching, life coaching, all of those people, man, I work with all of them. They all have a role to play, and it creates a very cohesive support system and team. But I would really I know people who over leverage just only one modality, and we deserve more than one.
Yeah. That's a great takeaway.
Yeah.
Yeah. More than one modality is going to be so much better for you.
I mean, like, that'd be like us cooking and only ever using pepper. Like, that doesn't make any sense, Like,
yeah.
let's do all the things, man.
All the spices. That's right. Try things you don't like occasionally too.
Totally.
So, right.
Oh,
Dani, how do people get in touch with you if they want to follow up with you?
Oh gosh. I mean, you could email me. Like, I'm always happy to talk to people. Like Dani at phoenixrising.family. That's my personal work email. It's like my only email. Everything else is junk. And then I do have my own clinic. It's phoenixrising.family. That's the website. And if you look over on the little up top, there's these links, and one says Burnout and Neurometabolic Clinic. I need to change it to just saying Burnout Clinic because that's easier for people. But Burnout, click that. We've got resources and tools. I mean, this is all, I left primary care just to focus on this with people and just to give them tools and have these conversations and do events and retreats and have fun and find joy and silliness, because trauma sucks the life out of that stuff. It steals creativity and joy. So fuck that shit. We're going to go find it.
That's right. We're going to go have some fun.
Yeah, totally. I love you guys. This has been really great. I feel honored to be here. I really appreciate the invite.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for being here today.
Having you, and thank you, Dani, for being you.
Oh, thanks, Melissa.
Yeah, I know.
You'll see Dani here again in the future. Don't worry. And in the meantime, you can look her up on our show notes if you'd like to get in touch with her. We want to say thank you again for signing in to listen to our podcast. Don't forget to go and rate and review. We would love to have some reviews out there, and let us know how you think of Rise and Thrive. And stay tuned for upcoming information about our fun retreats that are on the books, and we'll tell you more about that in upcoming episodes. Yeah. But for now, thanks for being here, and don't forget to rise and thrive, and take care of yourself, and don't forget to take care of others.
Yeah. Namaste.
See you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Rise and Thrive, a podcast by Vital Edge Wellness Coaching. If you found this episode meaningful, please rate, review, and share it with someone who might need it. For upcoming retreats and to join the Vital Edge Wellness community, head to vitaledgewellnesscoaching.com. Let's rise and thrive together.